people know soda's not good. Okay, they already know that, and yet they still choose to drink it, right? So just doing an inverted upside down pyramid is not going to change that.
Right.
It shows at the fat end, the top, which I guess is what they want you to eat more of, is whole milk, whole dairy, meat, and then they have fruits and vegetables side by side with them, and they're not equal.
Yeah.
They're not equal from a nutritional standpoint. Right. I'm just like, I that's the ugly. Right there, that's the ugly, because we know the Dairy Council is involved with that decision.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today's topic is a juicy one. It's new, it's trending. It's the new dietary guidelines for all Americans. You might notice from the new food pyramid that was published. And I think this is a really good one. We wanted to title it The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but honestly it turned out to be a little bit more like the good, the ugly, and the hideous. So excited for you guys to experience this one. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Lifestyle-Based Healing Podcast. I'm Dylan, your co-host, alongside my mom and not fellow dietitian, but she's a dietitian, Robin.
Hi everyone.
And today's topic is the new food pyramid that the Health and Human Services / USDA just released. I think RFK Jr., the secretary of the HHS, just came out and explained it and did a bunch of publicity around it. So we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we do. And for the average person, they're probably wondering what's all the hullabaloo about it, because most people don't follow the food pyramid anyway.
Right.
You were the kid that did, Dylan, back in the day.
Yeah. Yep.
That's when it looked like a real pyramid.
Yes, the right side up pyramid, the pointy pyramid.
Yeah. Dylan was that kid that had it on his bulletin board and took it to heart.
I took it seriously. Yeah.
But now it's an upside down pyramid, so it's like the shadow of a pyramid, or I don't even look like a pyramid. But there's a lot of people in the nutrition world and actually in the public policy world that is really pulling it apart and looking at it and criticizing it, and there's some good, and so I want to say there's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
Honestly, when it comes to this new food pyramid, and the pyramid itself, the diagram, I personally don't think is very useful.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. But let's start, like you start with any good criticism, you start with complimenting or, the good stuff, right? So let's talk about what's good about it first. What do you like about this new food pyramid?
What I liked about this new approach is, and it's really sort of buried in the guidelines themselves, is that it really is promoting more whole food. Okay, more real food, so to speak, more fruits and vegetables, which are a wonderful thing, less processed food. They go hard, on the processed foods. And I think that falls into kind of this good and bad part of it, which we can talk about if you want. But,
okay.
And so I think those are the positives that I saw.
I heard one positive. Is there any other praise you have for it? For me, I think building off of that, like obviously that's kind of like the main feature of it is like that's most of what's different. It's very clear that there's no processed food in it, and RFK Jr.'s rhetoric around it too is very focused on like no Fruit Loops and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
And so that's really good, and I think it has a chance to then help kids in school, like what ends up on their lunch trays and stuff like that. I think that's what's good about it.
Yes, and I think that's what I'm saying with the policy, right? Because I was in this, I did a rotation through the school systems, and I saw the processed foods that they were putting on their trays. The thing about it, though, is when you start, you have to kind of consider that some of those foods, like the cereals, they do have fortification. Okay, so they do have some vitamins in it. And if you think about bread, right? Bread is a processed food. Of course, we would prefer you to do the whole grain bread, but it has folic acid, which is good for people that are pregnant. It has other B vitamins that are good for the nutrients that people need. So again, it says all processed foods, and I was like, well, there might be some that we can still use. They're not all from the vegetable aisle, which that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
But there are some benefits to people that don't eat that stuff that now, am I saying eat chips? No, I'm saying that there are some benefits to like a better cereal and that sort of thing that I think got lumped into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes 100% sense. And there are some processed foods that make, like technically if you buy anything pre-made, it's been processed. So, there are definitely some scenarios where it can benefit, where it's not like that unhealthy, but it saves you a load of time or something like that.
Yeah, think about frozen vegetables.
Yeah.
Right? Frozen fruits. I mean, they're technically processed,
yeah.
but I don't think that's where they were going with this. And
targeting like Fruit Loops, chips,
sodas, maybe.
Processed meats, probably.
Yeah, processed meats. But see, this is where I think the confusion happens, because people don't know what that means. So they didn't really spell it out. And I think for the average American who's just eating, they don't understand the difference. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, if you ask anyone out there here in the U.S., people know soda's not good. Okay, yeah. they already know that, and yet they still choose to drink it, right? So just doing an inverted upside down pyramid is not going to change that. Right. It would be more helpful, I think, to say, what can we substitute that in with? And that's where I think people start kind of brainstorming. Oh, I could do flavored waters that I do myself, like add some, something like that. And that's what we do when we work with people, right? Find a substitute. So I just think that on that pyramid, there were no guidelines of how much of anything to eat. It just was a bunch of pictures.
Right.
And
so is that in the bad or ugly category?
That's in the ugly category,
Okay.
bad. I mean, because people just don't know.
Yeah.
And what I didn't like about the graphic was that, it shows at the fat end, the top, which I guess is what they want you to eat more of, is, whole milk, whole dairy, meat, and then they have fruits and vegetables side by side with them, and they're not equal.
Yeah.
They're not equal from a nutritional standpoint.
But based on the picture, they look equal.
Based on the picture, they look equal.
Yeah.
And we already know that people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, and now you put them up there all along, they're like, oh, see, I can just eat meat and it's in the right category.
Yeah.
Or eat whole milk and it's in the right category. So I would say the inverted pyramid just doesn't work for me. And there's kind of a South Park,
you sent me that to me.
Yeah, I don't watch South Park, but everybody's like, oh, South Park had it right years ago. It's like flip the pyramid, right?
Turn the pyramid upside down. You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top. Flip the damn food pyramid.
Right, so if anybody out there does South Park, you'll get it. And I was just like, I didn't even know. I had to look it up. I didn't know what that was. Yeah. And that's when it was against grains and gluten.
Yeah.
And this is another thing. They have at the point, they have grains.
Yeah.
Well, they lump all the grains together. It's like there's a lot of benefit with whole grains. And now they've got them just a little bit down at the bottom. And it's really, I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because the other thing about the messaging of it, this isn't necessarily the pyramid itself, but the messaging around it is to avoid like refined carbs. And I think we talked about it in some other segment we did, but it's just furthering the war on carbs when there's a lot of really healthy carbs out there, and messaging more and more about, oh, you have to avoid refined carbs. People don't know what that means either.
Yeah.
And so they don't know to differentiate good carbs from bad carbs.
Yeah, and so I think we're missing the mark on just true education around it. And they're pumping out the protein. They're really, and it's not that I'm anti-protein, but we are not in a protein deficient country.
No.
We're just not. And yet they're saying have it at every meal, and they don't differentiate between, animal protein and plant protein.
Right.
And they don't talk about how animal protein is harder on your kidneys, and they don't talk about how much do you really need, and how to measure how much you're getting. And the fact that I was honestly really shocked when I saw the clip art on that pyramid, the upside down thing, that had whole milk on there. I'm just like, that's the ugly. Right there, that's the ugly, because we know the Dairy Council is involved with that decision. Okay, and I just want to say that I think when I dove into it a little bit more, the people that advise the Secretary of Health and Human Services, they have ties to the beef and dairy industries. Okay, so don't be fooled to think that this was just a bunch of health professionals sitting around deciding what goes in there, that was not true.
Industry lobbyists.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, anytime you bring the USDA that has a vested interest in agriculture and those sort of things, that's helping you form these guidelines, there's a conflict of interest there. Okay, there really is. And so, and when I saw that, I'm like, it's right there. It's right there. So, if you're going to do dairy, don't go back to the whole fat. There's so much research around the detrimental effects of saturated fat. And when you eat meat and dairy and eggs, they have saturated fat in them. We've worked so hard to get people to get off of those things, reduce the levels of heart disease, reduce cholesterol levels, all those things. And now they're right back up there at the top. And it's just like, it's sort of like, as a health professional going, wow, how many people are going to suffer because of that?
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a new picture, but same old story, essentially.
Potentially, yes.
Would you just take this food pyramid and crumple it up and toss it in the wastebasket?
Well, it's funny you ask, because I was just doing a newsletter out to the people that follow me that I would say ignore the food pyramid. Not that you didn't ignore it before. I mean, right? Honestly. Right. And I think that if you dive into, I found the guidelines when I read them. They're very contradictory. So while they graphically show you that those foods are up there, okay,
yeah,
in the written part of it, they're still saying 10% or less of your saturated fat, calories should be from saturated fat. So it's the guideline's the same.
Yeah.
It's still a very low amount. That's like 13 grams. That's like one hamburger of saturated fat a day.
And visually, that's not represented like that.
Visually, that's not.
They look a lot more square footage. I honestly think they're a little bit blown up compared to they made the apple really small and the steak really big.
Yeah, and so it's like, to me that's very contradictory. How is anyone going to figure that out? And I'm a health professional.
Yeah. Okay,
I do this for a living, and so how is the average American going to figure that out and make heads or tails of it? And that's the ugly part to me too. It's like, I think they did streamline it and take out a lot of the jargon. The one thing they did come out and say, you should eliminate alcohol. That was another benefit, I think.
Okay.
And so that was another thing, because there used to be a guideline of 2 drinks that
for men
and 1 for women, and they basically said less is better. And I thought, they missed that lobbyist got kind of the short end of the deal, right? But so nothing's never not biased.
Right. Yeah.
We have biases, right? Because it's just in what I want people to eat more fruits and vegetables. So it's just
but there is one truth of what's going to be healthiest and leads you to the longest health span.
Yes, and there is a lot
or the greatest chance of preserving your health span
and of having less disease.
Yes.
Okay, and there is no doubt about that. And it's usually it's less saturated fat, more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts and seeds, and by the way, nuts and seeds and beans high in protein. Okay, so there's just
and that's not like any fancy science or statistical analysis. That's just pattern recognition. I mean, if you look at the people that live the longest in those communities, those blue zones, these are the things that they're doing and the things that they're eating and the things that they're avoiding and the proportions they're eating them in. Right, they're not eating a ton of these saturated fats.
Yeah, and they're not going to the fast food restaurants.
They're not going to fast food restaurants. On
a regular basis. So I think that is true. And so, there was a Harvard put out a plate. We went from the My Plate from the U.S. into now to the pyramid again. But the plate, I think, was a really good idea, because we all have a plate. And we all know we fill our plates regularly, and it gave you some guidelines of, okay, half my plate should look like vegetables, and my glass should have water in it, and I should have some fruits and those sort of things. And so
it gives some more proportionality.
Yes.
In a context that you can understand.
I think that was really useful. So I think it's unfortunate that we've moved away from that again.
Or it's lost the spotlight, or I don't know if I ever even had the spotlight.
Yeah.
So how would you engineer your own food pyramid? If we were to make a pyramid with a tier that's a foundational tier, and then like a middle tier, and then a point. Like, or maybe you come up with a different shape altogether. Like,
yeah.
What does your like food pyramid look like?
I would have it look like a pyramid.
Okay.
The pointy top at the top, like it used
less,
to be,
yeah.
right? Which means less. And maybe that's what people get confused on. They think that means more.
More important?
I don't know. More important. I don't know because it's at the top. But, I really feel like there's a spot for whole grains and fruits and vegetables and even the starchy vegetables being at the base because they're readily available, they're affordable, and they bring a lot of fiber with them, and I just think that as we, bring those into our diets, so many people want to avoid those, and I just, they break down to glucose, and that's what our bodies use.
Yeah.
Most readily. And so why wouldn't we fuel ourselves with those things first?
Yeah, it's the premium fuel.
It's a premium fuel for our brains and for our muscles. And I just think that, and then, do your proteins and all of those things. It's like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the old food pyramid, honestly. I think I would have upped my fruits and vegetables. That's what I typically
Maybe
do.
like a longer, fatter base or something.
Yeah,
so
or something like that. Yeah.
More fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. I think in the protein section, I would have it a little bit more dominant with beans and legumes and legumes and nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are so overlooked. Honestly, and they're a really great thing to be adding into our diets as well as beans.
Yeah.
And if you look at all these other cultures that are super healthy, before they turned Western in their eating patterns, a lot of them ate beans.
Yeah, it was a staple.
It was a staple, yeah. And yet we've gotten away from that. We really have. So how would you like it to look?
I think I agree. Probably replace. I'd probably just take out the sugar. I'd probably put the sugars because that used to be the top of the pyramid. Mm-hmm. Like those super sweet, hyper sweet, ultra processed sugar stuff. Probably make that the very tippy top. So it's the very least, and then the tier below that would be and then maybe even put dairy just below that, and then meat just below that. I'm gonna have to draw this out or something.
Yeah. I can't really visualize it in my head
and
right
then
now.
Where meat and dairy used to be, so all those things go in the very top of the pyramid, kind of together, and then where the meat and dairy used to be, I'd put nuts and maybe a slightly bigger portion for the beans and legumes.
Yeah.
And then keep the rest pretty much the same, except for maybe the whole grains. Make it whole grains, not refined grains.
Yes.
And then straight up so it's kind of a square bottom. So fruits and vegetables above that.
Yeah.
A little complicated the way
it
I explain it verbally, but maybe I'll draw it out.
Yeah, and I think this is where you when I work with people, we talk about what that looks like in real life.
Yeah.
Right? It's just these are the foods I want you to be adding in. Do so many servings of beans, so many servings of vegetables.
Yeah, emphasize the wholeness, the wholeness
part, of it.
Not the refined or...
Which means people have to cook.
Yeah, cook, yeah.
People have to cook more, and or you can eat out, but you have to change where you eat out.
Yeah. And so many times people run into trouble even when they cook at home, they put so much oil in it. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem too. Yeah,
I would definitely put a little caveat that you don't need so much olive oil. But we have another video on that. Because people are going to be what? Not olive oil, right? So
ours is going to be the weirdest shaped pyramid with all these asterisks everywhere.
It will. Yes, that is true. That is true. But, I'm not a fan. I love that we're going toward more of the whole foods and less processed foods. I just think they didn't make it any more clarifying for people, and it was very confusing even as a health professional. It's well, wait a second, you didn't change this, but it looks like you changed it. Yeah. Right? And so maybe that's the plan. I don't know. Maybe that was the plan. It's just who's really going to dive in to read those? Not most people. Not most people. Yeah. But that's why you have us, so we can talk to you about it. Yes.
So that's all we have for you today. Really appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe. That way you get future updates from us. And you help boost this content so other people can see it too. If you want more resources from us, you can go to therevitalizecenter.com, and we have a free newsletter you can sign up for, as well as some coursework and education you can do there. Other than that, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.